All right, folks, guess what? It's that time again. It is Freebie Friday with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Don Stanley. And then there's me, George B. Thomas, coming along for the ride. So, hey, as you can tell on the screen, what we do is we look at websites and social media and we give you tips, tricks, and actionable items. Now, Don, you know what's kind of amazing is we have done one episode. This is episode 2, and we already have enough folks who have reached out to us that we have about 4 or 5 episodes in the hopper that will be coming down the pipeline. Are you excited about that, dude?
I am so excited because one of the things, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is we know there's a lot of businesses, organizations out there that know they're not doing a great job communicating and connecting with the people they serve, but they don't know what they're doing wrong. And they want something that helps them cut to the chase and know, kind of like a 911 call of help me out, my stuff stinks, but I don't know what to do. And so I am thrilled by that we're already getting this kind of response to be able to help people out and help them improve their digital marketing and have a bigger impact with their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, Don. My thing, not that you should get giddy about free stuff, but I just like the fact that we're doing it for free. It's the ultimate way to be kind of a utility to those folks that otherwise might just continue to do what they're doing. And like we said on episode 1, I feel really good about this because we're making the interwebs a more beautiful place. I mean, have you been in some of the dark alleys in the interwebs? It's not pretty at all. So here's the deal, Don. We're going to jump into this, and I'm going to flip over to the website that we're going to be talking about this week, and it's CCI Systems, and you're going to have about 10 seconds, and I want you to tell me kind of the feel that you get from the site, and then I'll come behind and kind of share, my thoughts as well. So are you ready, Don?
I am locked and loaded and ready to go.
All right, well, let's jump into this then. 5, 4, 3, 2. I feel like the internet's gonna blow up when I do that. All right, Don. So what are your thoughts as far as the way it makes you feel initially?
So I think probably the biggest thing that comes to mind right away is it feels very corporate and very impersonal. The combination of the design style and the color palettes, along with lots and lots and lots of information, make it overwhelming to figure out what they do. I feel like they're pitching something to me, and they're not really talking about me and how they can help me and that they understand me and my problems. I think it just feels kind of that corporate sameness that you see on a lot of other corporate sites. And one of the things we know is that you can talk about businesses being B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer, but really ultimately business is P2P, people to people. And I don't get any of that feel from this site. What about you?
First of all, I gotta keep it real. And so, I mean, and I don't want to beat this site up because again, that's not really what this, video cast is about. It's about helping them out, but I want them to know truly how I feel. And Don, I feel like I should be driving in a DeLorean, that I'm in a Back to the Future episode, because I feel like I'm looking at a site from the 1980s. It may be the late 80s, but it's still the late 80s. And not only that, so it feels aged to me a little bit. But I feel like I'm cramped, right? There's a whole lot of browser space that could be being used up, and unfortunately, it's kind of what I'll call a thin site. And not only is it thin, but it's just full of like stuff. And I mean, I literally feel like I'm that big guy, which I am a big guy, on like the smallest airplane possible. And there's another guy just my size sitting next to me, and it's just like so cramped. And last but not least, I talked a little bit about all the stuff on the page, but it's like information overload, and so I'm literally confused on what they do, where I should go, I just don't see any journey in front of me here. So I don't know, man. This one's off to an interesting start. Let's jump into the next section. Don, you tell me, what the heck do they do?
Uh, they provide start to finish solutions for all communication networks. And again, that's part of the corporate speak. And I want to reinforce what you said. We're not doing this to pick on people at all. We
Right.
want to keep it raw and we want to keep it real because we want to help you. And that sounds like what you'd see on a corporate mission statement. And nobody reads the mission statements and nobody lives the mission statements because they don't understand them. And when you say all kinds of communication networks, that means you're hyper generalists and you're just looking to work with networks, not necessarily help businesses that need help with communication networks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. So I got a couple things. I love that you pointed that start to finish out because really start to finish, because like Burger King could say, hey, we do our burgers from start to finish. I mean, when do you ever get a service that's like midway through? Here's the other thing. As you were talking, I realized why I feel like I'm in a Back to the Future movie, because this next slider coming up, which we'll talk about this slider later, it says maybe it's the next one. I don't know. They fly by so fast. But there's one in here that says like right here. Take the leap to 85 megahertz. Like, I don't even know what that means, but I imagine the scientist guys, 88.5 gigawatts, that's what we need to get to get to. And so it's like, maybe that's where I'm getting that from. But so here's the deal for me. I don't know what they do. And that is the biggest problem. So yeah, we beat that thing down right there on
absolutely.
that.
And it might be, one of the arguments that some people might say is, well, you guys really aren't in the audience, and that could be true. But both of us are business people, and regardless of what industry you're in, unless you're in a hyper super technical industry where you are talking to nuclear engineers or something like that, people who are going to be the decision makers oftentimes about doing work with somebody are going to come and look at your stuff, and they need to understand at a high level what you do. So I think it is important to be able to break down clearly and concisely the problems you solve and who you solve them for.
Yeah, I guess, Don. Here's the deal. This site isn't like dealing with like scientific elements. We're talking about monitoring cable modems and stuff on these sliders. So it's not what is that called? It's not called rocket scientists, right? It's not whatever.
Rocket surgery.
Rocket surgery, right? We're being sort of funny right now, but I mean, I think the audience gets our point. So here's the deal, Don. Let's move into the next section. How do you contact this company if you need help?
Now, they're following best practices here. We see in the upper right-hand corner, they've got the contact, and they also have some nice contrast with the call, the phone number, along with the nice green button for the quick contact. I don't know what the difference between contact and quick contact really is, other than it pops open that little doohickey, but what the value is of having those two different ones. But they have it in the right place. They have it contrasted out nicely, and they do what they should be doing.
Okay, so here's the deal. Let's start that way. I love that the contact is in the top right-hand corner. That's where people are going to look. I even love that the phone number is there. I think it could be the same size as that top nav bar. It doesn't need to be called out as large. But Don, I got to be honest with you. I start to feel like I'm dealing with somebody who's desperate, right? Because I look in this corner and it's like, want to go on a date? Want to go out on a date? Want to go out on a date, right? And so, like, I get it. You want us to contact you, but there is no reason for three ways to contact you. And quick contact, on it's interesting. It's like literally a form pops out, and so am I really contacting you, or are you actually using this as a lead generation form because there's a lot of information you're asking me for, And you even
Hmm.
want to know if I'm a subcontractor looking to work with CCIs. So, I don't know. I just don't get the right feel on that. So,
Yes, absolutely. And one of the big things is, all of us want, whenever we talk with businesses we work with, whether they want people to contact. But you have to remember, people are going to be suspicious and they're not going to want to share their information because they're afraid they're going to get sold to. So, you want to make sure that you're providing value before you look desperate asking people to contact you. We love to think, oh, they're going to call us. Well, no, they're not. They're gonna vet you first. And yeah, now that you say that, I can see that it kind of has that feel to it of like, please, please, please.
yeah, yeah, right. Okay, so I want to end the show on a good note. So we're gonna wait and do the heroes kind of towards the end. Let's really put the gloves on. Not that I've been nice this episode anyway. I don't know. Maybe I need a nap or something, Don. I
You're
don't
the
know.
purple minion. The
Yeah,
purple
I'm the
minion.
purple minion today. You're the normal minion, the good guy. But let's talk about the three biggest problems that you see, and I'll let you go first, and I'll follow up. What are the biggest problems that you see with this site?
So again, one of the things I want to emphasize is we're talking Pareto principle, 20/80. What are the main three things that you would change? Yes, there's other things, but if I was looking for maximum impact by making three changes, the first thing I would do is get rid of that slider area. The slider area underneath the big banner photo, my eye doesn't know where to go. Plus, having all that movement, really my eye doesn't know where to go, and I don't know what you do. What I would do in that case is look at combining those two areas into one large area. There's a lot of different ways you could do it from a visual standpoint, but one large area that explains who you are and the problems you solve and who you solve them for. So that would be the first one. The second is, a lot of companies like to, it's a little bit lower on the page, like to talk about what they do and share case studies, which is great, but like the case studies and all the other content on the homepage all are about CCI. They're not about customers and the problems they solve for those customers. It's we're cool, we're this, we're that. And the reality is nobody wants to be talked to, they want to be listened to. And I feel like the content, just making some switches in the content where it's customer focused and talking about the problems they solve and how they solve them. So instead of CCI provides a winning solution, say, customers come to us when blank, or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
yeah. Can I jump in here because I like
Absolutely.
that you're going to this point, and then I'll kind of dive back out and let you go. But I'm going to use this example. CCI provides a winning solution. Great. Me. Just like you're saying. Take one of the folks that they've helped and use that name instead of CCI. So let's just say, and I know they don't help Burger King. Maybe they do. I don't know. But let's just, right? So this line could be Burger King finds a winning solution, right? Or McDonald's solves the micro bend issue with help from partner, whatever. You see what I'm saying? It's anywhere that they use CCI, they could use one of their customers' names and spin it to say the same thing, just in a different way. Okay, Don, go ahead. Sorry about
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the last thing is, if you go to the navigation, put the mouse over the old solutions tab there. Wow, there is a lot that I have to go through. And I am a fan of mega menus if need be from a usability standpoint, but this just tells me that they've thrown everything they've got up there. And if you scroll, you
that.
actually have a scroll bar on the mega
Listen,
menu.
Don. Listen, this ain't no mega menu. This is like one of those things where, like, I don't know if you've seen the movie where the guy's like, King Kong ain't got nothing on me. Like, this is one of those. Yeah, look at this. When does a menu scroll? I have never in my 40 plus years of interweb travel never seen a menu scroll. And Don, here's what kills me. Menus are supposed to take you places. Did you see that this doesn't even hyperlink? Like, look at this. This is going nowhere. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
But that's exactly it. The goal of a homepage is to get somebody to the second page of the site where they want to be and get to. And the menu doesn't help with that. The menu, which is one of those tools that people are going to look to guide them, like you said, there's so many options, and then there's a lot of stuff there that I can't click on, which makes me frustrated and confused. So that needs to be pared down. What that tells me is they haven't thought about their content the way their customers think about it, and they haven't organized it in a way that makes sense to people in their field. Makes sense to them, and it makes sense to their company structure, but too often what companies do is they say, well, this is how we think of it. Well, you're not selling your product or service to yourself. You're selling it to other people. So you need to organize things in a way that makes sense to them and get rid of the non-essential stuff. Look at your data, talk to your customers, find out what is the most valuable, and make that obvious, and then find out what they might not be finding that you feel is important, and help make that clear. But get rid of all the other stuff. Again, the Pareto principle strikes, the 20-80. The 20% of your content is going to drive 80% of your traffic. Find out what that 20% is, make it big, make it obvious, and help people find it. So what about you? What are your three biggest problems?
So here's the thing. I love that great minds think alike, because two of mine, like, I'll literally write down the notes, or I'll say my notes I had on this, Don, was the navigation is crazy. A scroll bar in navigation, really? And then I was like, copy that is not linked in a menu. What? And so that was my notes. And I agree with you. You said frustration, the F word of the internet, as our friend Marcus Sheridan would say, right? Like, this homepage is making me frustrated, and that's not good for their customers. So I only actually have one other big problem that I see with the site that I want to name, and that is, Don, and this is so huge, so huge.
Mm-hmm.
They are not mobile optimized. So if I scroll, and this is going to be interesting on our meeting, or what this does to the video, the people watching, but if I close this window, you see nothing adjusting, you see nothing shrinking, and you see immediately that if I was to get on this on a phone, again, I would be super, super frustrated.
Yep. And I mean, you think of, okay, I want to navigate around. Look at that menu on a mobile device. Look at it on an iPad.
It's not happening, dude. It's not happening.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Let's not crush them anymore. I want to give them some good juju. I want them to be able to start to take some things that they can actually use to make this site better. I want to be able to visit this site in like 6 months and be like, oh, that's awesome. And I do want to mention this, Don. If we review your site and you make changes to it, I want to know about it, because we may even evolve to a section, episode 5 or 10 or whatever, where we bring on kind of like the Shark Tank. Do you remember when we did this one? And here's how they look now, right? A before and after. I would love to do that. But let's go ahead with these folks, and let's talk about 3 heroes or possible heroes that you see with this website, Don.
So a couple of things that I think they do well. One of the first ones is they do offer free content. And I think that's one of the biggest, most important elements that organizations need to think of. I know Marcus, as you mentioned, I mean, he's huge on this, that providing valuable information to people with no expectation builds trust and has people start hanging out on your site. And they actually do have some good quality information. The problem that they have is that information is buried, and or it's the headlines for it are written in ways that are CCI centric rather than customer centric. So I think that is a definite. They amplify that could definitely become a driver and a hero for them. And I think one of the things that I would look at is taking some of that free content and making it into some type of opt-in ebook that they can put together in one package and highlighting that somewhere prominently on their site. So that's one possible hero. The other one is, I'm a huge fan of video content. I think video content, especially, it's way underrated in organizations like this. Who wants to hear from people in a a networking company. Well, everybody does, because again, people do business with other people, and so they have some video content. They're not producing it regularly, but they do have some that starts to demonstrate their thought leadership and providing information. If we look at the numbers in terms of how much video content is being consumed and how much video content is being shared, it's crazy. And so they've got that, which I think is a huge opportunity. So what about yourself?
Yep. I think there are actually some superheroes on this page. Let's talk about the search bar. Okay, so I think the search bar in this case is a super unbelievable hero of all heroes. As a matter of fact, Don, this search bar might be the whole Justice League wrapped up in one little area, because we've already proven for our beginning part of this this look at the site that there's a ton of information, and it's very confusing. It's hard to understand. So at least I can use that search bar to kind of drill down to the certain topics that I want to find, right? So I think that's a superhero. I think that the four boxes, case studies, news and events, meet CCI, hot topics, could be heroes. Here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to repeat something you said, that the only purpose of your homepage is to get to the second page. Well, folks, the second page is right here. The second page is right here. It's right here. And it's right here. And what I'm saying by that is I can scroll and find all the hot topics right here. Why do I want to click on another page to see more hot topics? So what I'm saying is these four boxes should be that, but it should just be like a little icon, maybe a small paragraph explaining what the case studies would cover, what the hot topics might be, and a link that actually clicks into a hot topics page, a Meet CCI page, a news and events page, a case studies. However, I will say that nobody really gives a crap about the news and events around your business. So I would pick something else like case studies, free content, free downloads, hot topics sounds cool, and I would maybe make the Meet CCI the last box. But this could be workable to where they would be superheroes. I like the idea of segmenting. You know me, I like segmenting, Don. So here's the other thing I will say is that the color palette has the potential to be a superhero element. I love the power of the blue. I love the power of the green. I love that you could have a ton of white space with the actual white in it. So if I were to take this gray, this green, this blue, and white and redesign this site could be just this site could be awesome with this color palette. So those are my.
No, I disagree. I disagree because they're Seattle Seahawks colors, and I'm a Packers fan. So.
Oh, too funny! You and your football color themes, too funny. All right, so Don, this is going to get fun because I know you and I both researched this area before we got on this one. Let's talk about social media for a second with this company.
Yes, absolutely. And when you jump on the social media accounts, what you see, there's one of the big things is lack of consistency visually across the different social media platforms from a visual standpoint. So if you go on Twitter, you see kind of this technical network background with the CCI logo in just blue. You go on LinkedIn, and they've got the information. They really don't have a whole lot other than to connect with the company there. There's nothing really that allows you to really gather a whole lot, but now a different logo style is used compared to the one on Twitter. And then they do have a YouTube channel, and I don't know if they have any other social media channels because YouTube and the other social media channels are not included on the website. So when you look at ways to connect, the most recent Twitter update was from October 15th. So that tells us, that Twitter is kind of an afterthought. And that's fine if it is. That's one of the things that, I think is important for businesses to understand. One of the things I'll hear from different people in industry is you need to be on this network, and you need to be on this one, and you need to be on this one. It's kind of like going to different doctors and they tell you, don't eat butter, eat margarine. No, eat butter, don't eat margarine. No, don't eat either of them. And everybody's equally qualified, and you're like, well, what do I believe? If you can't manage or maintain a social network well, then in my opinion, it's okay to let it go. Just monitor it to see if there's conversations going on about you. But it looks like is that you kind of made a half-hearted effort to be active on it. So
Yeah.
looking at the activity level along with design consistency are the elements that I see. What about you?
Definitely. Here's what I'm going to say, Don. A couple of things. One, you're right. They do have a YouTube channel, and the other amazing thing is and I know you stumbled across that, right? And you're like, dude, they have a YouTube channel, and they're not showing it on their homepage, and so that made me dig in even deeper. And dude, they have a Facebook page as well, and so it's like, okay, wait a minute. So here's how my brain goes, Don, and I know I have a really weird brain, and everybody kind of gets that, but so you're having a full conversation on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. However, if I come to your website, you only want me to see half of the conversation, and so that makes me wonder, well, why only half? And then immediately my trust starts to go downhill. I'm like, are you hiding something from me? Because why aren't you just being there? And it does go back to what you talked about. If you're not going to do them, shut them down, because the worst case scenario is not to be consistent and not to be engaged in the ones that you're actually on. So I would say either have all 4 icons on this homepage, or if you're not going to use the pages, then don't use the pages and have them not be there. So here's the other thing too. I gotta talk about this, and maybe it's just me, but Don, this background here, right? So I left it alone when we were on the home page. It's right here, and I was like, is that a cookie cutter, or it's like I didn't know what it was, dude. And so I get here, when we open Twitter, I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is again. And so this really, to them, it speaks of what they do, I guess. Maybe it's supposed to be connecting, and this is a server, and this is wired. I don't know. They could pick better imagery to be consistent with across these platforms. So that's what I'll say. That's what I'll say. The good part, Don. Let's give them 3 or 4, and in this case, we'll probably give them maybe 6 or 8 good, actionable tips that they might be able to take with them and use to make their site better going forward. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to impart with this is I always say whenever I'm doing workshops or teaching my classes, I always say the purpose of education isn't knowledge, it's action. So our goal here is to give you some education, but we hope that you act on this. And so here are the things that I would do right away. I think the biggest thing is to take a step back and clarify who you serve and how you help them on the homepage. So really think about, what is it that we do? What are the problems we solve, and who do we solve them for? And clarify that in a big way on the homepage. Combining the slider area with the start to finish banner type area, showing to your customers that you know them and you can help them. Just that alone, I think, would provide tremendous value. It's not the only thing to do, but I think that is a high level, high value target. The second thing I would do is change that language throughout the homepage. Look at how can we make it more customer or you focused, not CCI focused. It would not take a lot to do that. That's a low hanging fruit that would be easy to act upon. But what it would start to do is it would start to, from a psychological standpoint, help people connect with you as you explain what you bring to the table. And I think, start highlighting the value added content that they have. They have webinars, they have white papers, they have videos, but I don't get that anywhere. Find a place, and maybe that's the area that gets the news and events gets replaced by, learning center resources, or learn about networking, or networking 101, whatever you'd want to call it, but add those information pieces there, so that people start saying, wow, these guys are thought leaders, they know what they're doing, and wow, they're really helpful, so I'm going to reach out to them. What about you?
Yeah, Don, here's the deal. I think there's a couple more, and the biggest one for me is make this site mobile responsive. Make it optimized for mobile. And Don, I really have a good reason why I'm saying that's my number one choice, and here it goes. Did you know that more people own mobile devices than own toothbrushes? Now let that sink in, because that's gross, first of all. But there are more mobile devices sold to people than own toothbrushes. So, and what I'm saying by that is mobile viewing has surpassed desktop viewing in 2015. It's just, think about your life and how much you're not in front of a big screen, and how often you have that, pocket full of stress, your mobile phone in your pocket. So make it responsive. The other thing I would want these folks to do is act like you need or have to design a site where you're not allowed to use scroll bars. So imagine that I'm behind you. I have a ruler, and every time you put a piece of content on there that makes a scroll bar happen on your website, I get to, smack you on your hand or something. I don't know, whatever it takes. But just think that, hey, I can't use scroll bars, right? The next one is, Don, I have a feeling we're going to have a ton of these where I say almost the same thing, and I'm going to figure out if I can find different ways to say it each week. But the slider area, that needs to be a static call to action. Maybe something like 12 ways we help large companies with their cable networking, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But it needs to just be a static call to action that leads to a lead generation opportunity for your company, and obviously that will help with the just the what I'll call confusion on the homepage. That'll at least help. And then
Absolutely.
honestly, open up your design and use the whole browser window, or at least 1200 pixels of it. I mean, if you're, again, I'm saying design for a small mobile screen, but also when you do that, make sure you're designing so that when somebody like myself who happens to view it on, a 27-inch iMac, that it feels like it takes up the screen, because, in people's minds, a small site might be a small company, right? I mean, you just have to kind of start to think about the subconscious level of folks, where if it feels bigger than it really is, well, then it's a big company. So that's what I'll give. So Don, any parting things you want to talk about before we close this episode out?
Well, I think I hope that the folks at CCI and those listening see the value in these tips. And as you said, sometimes we're going to be repeating similar things because there are patterns to what works from a design standpoint, from a neuroscience standpoint, from an engagement standpoint. I want to see them rock and roll, and I would love to see them implement some of these, like you said, and say, hey, where are they now? And see these guys doing bigger, better things, helping serve more people and grow their business.
Yeah, definitely. Well, folks, you have been watching another awesome episode of Freebie Fridays. As always, if you want to submit your website for our brutal but honest, maybe not brutal, but just honest assessment, if you want some website tips, tricks, and action items that you can take to make your business better, then go ahead and reach out to Don. He is 3 Rhino Media, and or myself at George B. Thomas on the Twitter sphere. And as always, let's make the internet a more beautiful place to live in.